Leonardo da Vinci once said that time waits just long enough for those who use it. So the question is, what are you doing with your time? We all have 24 hours in a day. What are you doing with your time? Are you building your dream, or are you helping someone else build theirs? Are you putting in the work every single day, every single moment of now? Are you planning for your future? They say planning is bringing the future into the present so you can do something about it now. So the question is this: what are you doing with your time? Remember, the time is always now. And thank you for joining the Time Is Always Now podcast. My name is Terence Young. I am your host for the podcast today, and this is a podcast that is dedicated to helping people get past their excuses. Dedicated to helping people say, you know what, I'm not going to wait for the right time because the right time does not exist. The right time is right now. This is a podcast that is dedicated to helping people harness that power in the eternal moment of now. So I'm so grateful that you are here with me today. If you would like to donate to the cause, you can do so just by joining going to my website, which is terenceyoungnow.com. And you can donate there and allow me to continue to do what I do, to get these messages out into the universe. And so more people can hear these messages and be empowered and be encouraged to improve their lives in the present moment. And that's what it's all about. So thank you again for joining me. I am super excited about today. I have a special guest joining me today. He needs no introduction, but I'm going to give you one anyway here. He is a third generation minister. He's a writer, a coach, a teacher, and a podcaster. And he's just an amazing speaker that I've admired for a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast my friend, Reverend Randolph.
Hey, everybody. It's such a wonderful thing to get to be here. I'm a big fan. It's such a nice thing to get to talk to you again. I mean, we've served together in a couple of different capacities, and it's nice to be here on your show. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. Thank you, Dieter. I'm excited about having you, and I'm excited about really talking about your history and coming up to now and the new projects that you have going on right now. So I want to jump right in. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Hey, before we get started into everything that's going on, I think it's just appropriate that we always ask each other, and I'm going to ask you, man, how are you doing right now? How's your family doing with the pandemic and everything that's going on?
Doing really well. I mean, it's obviously it's a strange, wonderful thing in so many ways, and obviously there's a lot. I mean, I'm a minister. I'd like to be able to go to church.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to go to the movies and go to a restaurant, stuff like that. But on the other hand, I see this as a tremendous reminder that we're all in this together. We have, we're isolating from each other in strange ways. Of course, We're not used to it. But on the other hand, we have an opportunity to take care of each other in ways we've never had before. Just simple things like making sure there's an extra thing of toilet paper on the shelf at the grocery store, not cleaning them out, taking a minute to make sure you got your mask on, or doing whatever just to take a second. It's a wonderful thing. The way that you feel when you feel isolated is a reminder that, you know what, it's time to make some connections. And it's nice in a crazy kind of way that we're forced to connect in new ways, to really stop taking things for granted. And my family is, I have a daughter who's older, and she's moved out, and my son is 22, and he still lives here in the house, and they're both music teachers, but they've had to learn how to teach remotely and all that, and so they've adjusted around that in wonderful ways. And obviously the big deal for me is the church I'm used to having church every Sunday, and that's just not a real good idea for at least the way that we feel about it. So we've been doing online streaming and figuring that out and really questioning the assumptions about what makes church church. So we're trying to roll with it and use this opportunity to really reevaluate what's important.
Great point.
How about you? How are you doing?
Great question. You know what? I'm doing well. And I know that you have two children, and I didn't realize they're about the same age as mine. My son is 24. My daughter is 21. And they're doing well. So they're really close to the same age. But I'm doing well. I mean, we just celebrated my mom's 72nd birthday the other day. That was kind of awesome. And we did the little drive-by. We did stop. We had our face mask on and everything. But I totally agree with you. This is teaching us new ways to connect and showing us what's really important in life. And I appreciate that. I've gotten to the stage in my own consciousness where I really appreciate that. And so I'm learning. I'm learning. Yeah.
Well, and I think that part of the deal too is that I think sometimes people think that faith is about learning how to pretend real hard. They go, if I pretend hard enough, it's going to work out. And that's not what faith is. And in fact, I've told people many, many times in different kinds of ways, if you go to a church or a temple or a synagogue or a healer or a mentor or whatever they are, and they say, you're not getting results because you're not pretending hard enough, you're being scammed. That's just the deal. Faith is not about pretending. Faith has to do with the knowing. And so as far as the COVID thing, you don't get a pass just because you're sick of feeling this way, and you don't have to wear a mask and you can go do whatever you want to do just because you want to do it. That's not the way that this works. The numbers will continue to go up until we learn from this, not until we pretend like it's not going on. And that is a message that applies to all kinds of parts of life, not just to the pandemic and all that. Everything in life this is not about, I'm going to pretend like it's not a problem. That doesn't make you tough. It doesn't make you a hero. It makes you in denial. Instead, it's about, okay, what can I learn from this? And until you do that, you're not going to grow. But once you grow, once you learn, once you let yourself change, amazing things can happen when you make room.
Yeah, so true. It's funny that you said that because my last podcast, I think I talked about wearing the mask and why we should, and I brought that subject up. So it was really cool. Hopefully my listeners will be able to go back and check that one out.
Nice.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I just said nice.
Yeah. I know that you talked about it just briefly there before that, and I said it in the intro that you are a third generation minister. So I want to ask you this: why did you get into ministry?
Well, part of it is, if your parents own a skate park, you're probably going to try skateboarding. Part of it is you kind of, it's easy. It's the family business, and I got to say, I think the ministry, more than a lot of other kinds of vocations and callings, it really is a 24/7 kind of situation. Obviously there's Sunday morning, but there's a million things, and somebody always needs something, and there's weddings and funerals, and somebody's got to go to the hospital, and you got to be working on your talk, and there's somebody wants to counsel, and it's every day you get calls in the middle of the night and all that. So I grew up with that as just kind of my normal.
Yeah.
But I have to say, in spite of all of that, and I did church things from a very, very early age. I was a youth leader when I was a teenager, all that kind of stuff. But after, I became a minister when I was 21. Early.
21.
So, I just kind of, that was the deal. But I have to say that something happened for me. Because even though I really felt and still feel a profound sense of calling, I know that this is what I'm put on earth to do. There's a difference between being called for something versus having to do it in a specific way. You might be called for all kinds of things, but that doesn't mean that your assumptions are right about how to do it. And so I had, at a very early age, I had this feeling of, okay, I want to do this. I feel called by Spirit to do this. And yet I know that I don't want to do it like my parents did it.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock against them. It's just that that's not right for me. And I have to say that as our culture grows in the 21st century, I think that there are some assumptions about the way that people do church that just don't make sense anymore. So we got to question some things. But anyway, as a result, I did church for a while, and I thought, you know what? I can't work for my parents for one thing, and I can't do it in the old way anymore. So I stepped away. I went and I got a regular job for a little while. And I thought, you know what, this isn't for me. I love the calling, but I don't love the execution of it. But I don't know any other way, so I got to step away. And so I got a job. I did, computer stuff, and I sat in a cubicle. I even sold used cars for a little while, believe it or not. It didn't last too long in that profession. But, I did anything I could to feed my family. But what I discovered was it gave me such a great experience of, oh, wow, this is real life outside the fence of what I thought was normal.
Yeah.
And it let me figure out what really was important to me and what people were really talking about. But it's also interesting because no matter where I was, I'd be, trying to be in a meeting and somebody would say, hey, before the meeting starts, I'm going through a divorce. What do you think about this and that and the other? Or how do you do this? And, it's not like I carried a sign that says I went to seminary, but it's just one of those things where people would find me. And I found that I was doing church all over the place, even though I wasn't doing it on a Sunday morning, and I sure wasn't wearing a tie.
That's right.
And so after not too long, I came back to, explicit ministry, but I knew that I couldn't do it in the old way. And so the rest of my career has been trying to figure out what the new way is and trying to learn how to listen to that.
And creating that. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. I haven't made it out to your spiritual gathering yet, but I'm going to be there soon. I know.
Well, right now it's all online, but the moment that the doors open again, I want to have you out. Well, we'll talk some other time, but I want to have you out to speak too, and you and I can do some stuff together. Maybe I got some big ideas that we'll talk about some other time.
That will be awesome for sure. So I think you probably just touched on it a second ago, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What motivates you to continue forward, to do what you do?
Well, I think part of it is that I can't help it. Just like I said before, it's like when you love somebody, you naturally do the things that you do. They call it falling in love. They say that love makes the world go round. They use gravitational terms because when you're in love, you're not moving under your own steam. There's a greater force in the universe that pulls you. And I definitely feel that. And I'll be honest, I'm a human being. There are times when I forget. There's times when my ego gets in the way. We call that pulpit disease in the ministry. There are times when I forget. But when I'm honest, when I'm still and quiet, when I get out of my way enough, I find that I can't help it. This is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to think about. This is what I want to do with my life. And I don't really have a choice. I couldn't do anything else if I wanted to. But beyond that, I think that more than ever before, there is such a calling to listen in a different way. We've learned more and more and more that it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't matter if you have a private jet. You can still be wrong in a private jet. You can still be miserable in a mansion, We're learning that it's wonderful to have things. It's nice to have toys. I like toys. It's wonderful to do all of that. But at the end of the day, our fulfillment and our happiness and our success, it's got to be measured in a different way. And I think there's a lot of people who are trying to figure that out. And I certainly don't have a copyright on what this looks like. But I do believe that what I'm working on, what I'm trying to say to people is helping them figure out what actually matters. And that can absolutely change the world.
I love that. And the fact that you just brought that up, because in your new project that you have going on right now, and you sent me a copy of it. Thank you so much. Meaning Fullfilled, right? And you talk about finding what matters, right? And how that's important to people. Can you touch a little bit on how there's a couple of places in the book that I read that I want to ask you about that I love, but can you just touch on that when you talk about finding what matters?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the idea that we're told that success has to do with numbers. When you have X amount of money in the bank, when you're this many years old, you finally get your opinion actually matters. When you live in this zip code, when you lose this much weight, when you have this many likes on your Instagram account, and the numbers go on and on and on. But when you think about it, those numbers are absolutely the least interesting part of yourself. You ever imagine being on a date with somebody and all they can talk about is their waistline or their bank account? Come on. And the thing is, we're taught to chase data, but data is not interesting and it's not important. And one of the things that I say in the book is I've done a lot of funerals, and I have never, people say a lot of things because the funeral kind of makes everybody into a philosopher, and I've heard a lot of people say a lot of things. I have never heard anybody say in all my years of doing this, and I've been a minister for decades, I have never, ever heard anybody come up to me and go, hey, that was a great service and it was wonderful that people shared their stories, but I want to know more about their shoe size and what their interest rate was. I want to know more about their credit score and their height and weight. No one says that because the data is so insignificant. And the thing is, if you chase the data, it's going to make you feel insignificant too. My point is, that's not where we live. That's not the truth about us.
Yeah.
And so I have a desire to say, okay, well, let's figure out what does actually mean something. And I had to write a book based on what I think is a way to get to that. What I think is a way to share some of that with people, to figure out what it is for yourself. And once again, this is how we change the world.
Yeah, yeah. I always say this a lot of times when I'm speaking. I'll say, we can't change the world, but we can change ourselves. And when we change ourselves, then we can change the world. Yeah. I totally believe in that. There's a great part in your new project, in Meaning Fulfilled. I wanted to ask you about it. It's in chapter 2 when you talk about what's your story. And you were talking about, it made me laugh because it's so true. You were talking about how people want life to be straightforward. And then you compare it to like an IKEA. Do you remember, that part? And I'm like, so, because Dieter, I am terrible at putting stuff together, first of all. But the analogy was so on point, because even though you get all the instructions for this piece of furniture, there's always something that's just a little off, or you can't figure out this, even with the directions. And I love the way you bring it home and you explain, how that's how life is as well. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Share that with my listeners.
Yeah. I love that. That was a lot of fun to write and to think about. And it came out of, so many people have asked me over the years, because we'll talk about the Bible, we'll talk about some story that I've told, we'll talk about something like that. And somebody will say, yeah, how come I have to take a Bible class? How come it's not so straightforward? How come it doesn't just come with instructions like IKEA? And that's when I give the example, like, yeah, you know what? You have instructions in IKEA, and when you're done building the chair, it's not right, and there's some parts missing, and your choice is, do you tell the person you live with that their parts missing, or do you hide them somewhere? It's like, nothing is that straightforward. And in fact, anything that has instructions, like the back of a stereo or building a model airplane or Lego or something, none of it is straightforward. But the thing that's extra crazy is that there are actually a lot of parts in the Bible that seem pretty straightforward, like do unto others as you would have them do unto you, the golden rule. People go, okay, I get it. That's like instructions. I get that. But the truth is, even that is not actually very meaningful if you read it like you're reading instructions for how to put together a shelf. Because people go, do unto others you'd have them do unto you. Okay, well, yeah, but what if that other person has taken a vow of silence and I want to talk? Yeah. What if I'm hungry and they're not? If I do unto others as I would have them do unto me, that doesn't actually fit what their life is. And so the truth is, you've got to look behind the words, even for something that seems very simple, if you're really going to get the meaning. And that's the deal with everything. We have to look past face value. We really can't judge a book by its cover. We have to look past the way that things appear and get to the real story behind everything that's going on, if we're really going to get anything out of it. Yeah. The reason that you love the person you love has nothing to do with their physical appearance. I mean, that's nice when you first meet them, but that doesn't last. There's something deeper. And everybody knows that if you've ever dated somebody and all your friends go, why are you with them? You can't explain it. You can't write out what love looks like on an equation on the chalkboard. It ain't that. It's a deeper thing.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to dig a little bit deeper if we're sick of just accumulating Allen wrenches and missing parts to footstools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great point. And what's amazing is what you're saying right now. How cool is it how that lesson, that knowledge, that understanding would apply to everything that's going on in our world right now. We've got to look past just the surface value of everything. So true. So true. I love that. I love that you share about the difference between truth and facts. Yeah, and I want to hear your take on it. I've talked about this before myself, but I'd love to hear how you explain that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this has to do with the facts of your life are, how tall you are, where you live, how much you weigh, how much money you make. These are all facts.
Yeah.
And the facts are important. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you that life is an illusion. I'm not trying to tell you that it's somehow wrong to want to have a new outfit or to put food on the table. The facts are important. You should pay attention to the facts. You got to pay your taxes, all of these kinds of things. They're important. But none of the facts can tell you who you are, right? Who you are has to do not with facts, but with truth. And I like to put a capital T around truth. A capital T truth has to do with those things that absolutely, really define you. And how do you tell the difference? Well, there's a lot of ways. Facts change, for one thing. It used to be a fact that you were a lot shorter, but you were a kid and you grew. It used to be a fact that you lived in a different place, but if you're like most of the people in Florida, you moved. It used to be a fact that you were in 8th grade and you're not anymore. All those things are factual, but they're not true about you. One of the things you can say is, if it can go away, then it can't tell you who you are. And that simple idea, if it can go away, then it can't tell you who you are, can get you out of all kinds of trouble. I got to tell you, man, so many people define themselves by their jobs, let's say.
Yeah.
I am Joe Blow and I'm a plumber or I'm a whatever. And it's great to have a job that makes you proud, but on the other hand, that's not who you are. And something really scary happens to people if they get fired or laid off. Even I've seen people who have retired successfully, but they still don't know what to do with themselves, and they end up feeling depressed. It's like an existential death and mourning that they go through, because it's like, I don't know who I am anymore. I define myself by something that goes away. I define myself by my hairline and you go bald. I define myself by all kinds of stuff. And if you know, oh, wait a minute, this thing can go away, so I shouldn't hang my whole identity on it.
Yeah.
If you really know that, it's awesome. And in fact, it helps you deal with loss, because you know what? Everybody's got stories of loss and grief, whether some possession got taken away, the car got repoed, or you got in an accident, or a loved one passes away, or whatever it is. Something gets taken away from you. You can go, oh, wait a minute. It's gone. But I'm still here. So I guess that wasn't all there is to me. And everybody's got real powerful moments of getting to the other side of grief, where they go, you know what, it's okay to grieve, because like I said, the facts are real. They're just not everything. But you go, oh, wait a minute, it's gone and I'm still here. And in fact, what's left of me is a more honest version of me. I actually got done with some pieces that were covering up the truth. I was hiding my light under a bushel, as they say, and I didn't even know it. Yeah. Sometimes loss is a real win.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So true. I believe I even got that from you probably one time when I heard you speak about the difference between truth and facts. I love the way you explain that and say it. At one point you were 5 foot and now you're 5'10". So that was a fact, but it's not the truth. And I love we're not defined by these things, and there's more to us. There's more levels to us and more layers, and we need to get in touch with that truth about us as we move forward in our lives.
It'll get you out of a lot of trouble, man. If you're in an argument with somebody and you can go, oh, wait a minute, are we arguing about facts or about truth? Because you know what? Facts are a matter of perception, and I'm going to let you have your facts. But let's get to a place where we can agree on the truth.
There you go again. Just layer that to the entire United States right now, right? That's what we need. We need you out there speaking to everybody right now. I want everyone to hear this.
Wow.
Come on, preach, man, preach. I love the book. As a matter of fact, in chapter 6, you just talked about it. I was going to ask you about it, but you just brought it up about what defines us, and you talked about having a job and what if you lose your job. So powerful stuff. So I was really engaged when I was reading that part of your book. So thank you so much again for sending that over. And I know that everyone listening and the people that already know you and your fans are going to really, really enjoy this, because I certainly did as I was going through it. So for sure. I know that for you, everything that you do is about making a difference in the world. And I've seen, hey man, you're doing, hey, Dieter, this is one of the things I always talk about the difference between like not using the word try, a powerless word, right? You're doing it, man. You're not trying, you're doing it. And I see you doing it, and I'll tell you again, you definitely are someone that has inspired me as a speaker. So I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about how you feel and how you are going about making that difference in the world that you are doing right now.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I try to do it in big and small ways. And, like I said before, I'm a human being, so it's not like every nanosecond of my day is committed to the cause. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I just watch TV. Sometimes I read a book that doesn't do me any good. That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's not like that. But I know how much better it feels. It's just like anything. You know how junk food feels. It's a momentary thing, but then you feel bad after. But if you eat something healthy, it energizes you. Yeah. There's a difference between something that feels bad and feels good. So I try to make those feel-good experiences last longer, and I try to have more of them in my life. And it means little things. Like I try to, I recycle. I do little things like that. I try to go the extra mile. I put the shopping carts back. Little things like that. But it's also about the idea that I'm doing everything I can to try to get the word out. And so I wrote the book. And so I do church every Sunday. I really try to reach out to people every day in one way or another. I have I write my blog. I do my thing. If you follow me on anything on social media, you'll see my attempt to try to make some kind of an impact somewhere. Mm-hmm. I'm always trying because, just like you said before, you can't change the world, but you can change yourself, and that ends up changing the world. I think that that's really powerful because what you're really talking about, it seems to me, is you're getting rid of this fake wall, this dualism. Some people think that there's me and then there's the whole rest of the world. It's me against the world. And, that's just the way of the world. That's how the world works. Well, you know what? There's no such thing as the world, as some foreign entity out there. Yeah. There's just people like you and me. Yeah. That's what the world is made out of. And so that means that you have a vote in what the way of the world is. Mm-hmm. And I've decided that my version of the way of the world is going to be pretty kind. I'm going to try my best to be kind to people because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Last month we did a month-long workshop at our church, and one of the things it had to do with was think about the people who are in the front row of your life. And we talked about praying about those people and sharing with those people. But one of the things that really stuck out for me is something that I wish more people would do is I said, those people who are in the front row of your life, invest in their success. And that can look, and make sure you're doing it in a healthy way. It's not a codependent thing and all that. But in one way or another, find ways to reach out and support somebody. If you know somebody is working on a book, take a minute and go, hey, how's that going? Yeah. Take a minute. Go to somebody's play if they're trying to make it as an actor. Do the thing. Eat somebody's cooking if they're trying to figure out how to be a chef. Figure out how to invest in somebody's success in healthy ways. And if you can just do that, it doesn't even have to be a spiritual practice, although I think it is a deeply spiritual practice, just in one way or another. Invest in somebody's success. Put your heart into that. And amazing things happen because I want to live in a world where courage gets supported. When somebody steps out and says, you know what, I'm going to be a street musician. Yeah, drop a buck in their guitar case. Yeah. Because that's the world I want to live in.
I love it. I love it. So powerful and so true. Yeah, we can all make a difference. And I'll say it again, Dieter, you are not trying, you are doing, my man. You're doing it. I'm watching you doing it, I'm a huge supporter of you, huge fan. So you are doing it, man. So
Thank you, sir.
I want to say thank you for coming on to the podcast. I know that my listeners are going to get a lot out of this. I know they're going to love your project, the new book that's coming out. And anyone that hears this is going to be encouraged and inspired and motivated. And that's what it's all about. Before I let you go, I always ask anyone that I bring onto my podcast this question.
Okay.
And since you know my mantra, right? The time is always now. So yeah. I want to ask you, Dieter, when has there been a time in your life when you have used that concept in your life, saying, hey, the time is always now. I'm not going to wait for the quote unquote right time to do something. I got to move forward now because it's the only time we got.
Well, I got to tell you that my life has been punctuated by those things. And one of the things that happens when you know that you're into something really important, really meaningful, to use the word from the book, is you feel like you lose time. You know, when you love something, you'll miss a meal because you're working on it out in the garage or whatever. You know what I mean? When you're into something, time doesn't matter. There's just right now. But the thing that springs to mind right now is when I was very, very young. My wife, Jenny, and I met when we were teenagers in the youth group at our church. We just celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary last month.
Congratulations.
So it's working out,
Yeah.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
But I come from, and you know my spiritual background. I come from a world where you talk about affirmations and let's affirm good things and don't affirm the bad stuff, that kind of thing. And there's real power behind that, but that's just kind of my vocabulary growing up. And we were very young, my wife and I. She wasn't my wife yet. We were engaged. Yeah. We were making big plans about the future. But she came to me one day and she said, "I am going to have a baby." Ooh. And I said, "Let's not affirm that." And I was afraid. I was a kid, and I didn't know what that meant. And how am I going to figure out how to be a good dad, and all of the things that you think about. And I went through this period where I thought, okay, it's not the time. I don't have enough money. I'm not old enough. We don't know what we're doing. You're supposed to wait and be a responsible citizen or whatever, and you got to wait until it's your time. And I went with my wife. We went to the obstetrician, and she wasn't showing yet or anything like that. But they put the little monitor on her belly, and there was this thing on the screen that was the size of a little kidney bean. Wow! And it had a heartbeat.
Wow!
And I thought, oh wow, this is happening whether I think I'm ready or not.
Yeah.
And the truth is, right now, apparently, I have what it takes because God and the universe and everything else, because life has given this amazing moment to me. And I'm not going to screw it up by looking to the future. When you think about it, you're never ready for anything. There's never enough money. There's never enough time. You're never going to get the approval of the right people. And when you think about every hero in the world, the heroes you have are the ones that say, you know what, I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care if I can afford this. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I realized in that moment that, I still had a bucket full of fear about how it was all going to go. But I realized that right now was all I had to give. And I wasn't going to mess up right now. And, like I said, human being, I'm here growing and all of that. But in the moments when I'm a good dad, it's when I know that right now I'm here with you. And I don't have enough money to support every last dream of yours or enough time to do whatever or enough whatever. But in this moment, in the right now, I'm real with you. And I'm here and I love you. Yeah. And those are the moments that really matter. So there's nothing, there's no time. There's no anything other than right now.
Oh, so true. So, man, you just touched on it and just spoke to it so beautifully. We're never ready. We're never ready for anything. No, I love that.
There's no such thing as ready.
There's no such thing as ready. It's just here it is. Embrace that fear and move forward. Move forward now because there's no time. There's no right time. There's no getting ready. Just do it. Just move forward in life. Life is presenting what you are supposed to experience right here and right now. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I thought about you when I was writing part of the book. You know, people say there's no time like the present. And I say in the book, let's just change the punctuation in a little bit and say, there's no time like the present. In other words, love this moment. Show up for the present. Because there's no time. There's no later. There's only right now. And I thought about you when I was writing that part. So I'm glad for this moment to make that connection.
Awesome. Hey, we got to do some work together, man. We could do a workshop or something on that. I see that in the future, Dieter. Sometime in the future, we're going to do that.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Hey, I appreciate you being on. I want my listeners and anyone that hears this to be able to know as much as they can about you and how to get in contact with you. So before we close out, Dieter, is there any last words that you want to share about your project, meaning Fulfilled, and also how can people get in touch with you? How can they learn about the book and really all of your other works that you've been doing?
Absolutely. So, okay. As far as how to get a hold of me, the best way to do that is just to go to my website. And my website is Way Past OK, WAYPAST OKAY, waypastok.com. And if you go to waypastok.com, there's links to all of the books I've written, including the latest one. There's links to all of my social media stuff. There's a way you can sign up for my newsletter where I keep you posted and I write little inspirational things all week long. All of that, you can find me at waypastok.com, and that just links to everything. And I would love for people to come find out what I'm up to, because I'm always trying to do something to try to make a difference and trying to help somebody. But as far as last things I want to say, listen, if you're listening to this podcast, you are in the right place, because you are hearing things that are changing your life. The fact that you have chosen to listen to this instead of all the other things you can listen to, the fact that you have subscribed to this podcast says a lot about you, and it says a lot about the kind of world that we can make together. So thank you for being a fan of The Time Is Now. You've come to the right place.
Thank you, Dieter. I appreciate you, man. Again, so excited, so happy that we got the opportunity to do this and you come onto the podcast. Thank you again for being a guest, and we're going to work together in the future. I'm looking forward to it. Everybody, absolutely. I'm going to, for everyone listening, I'm going to put his website into the show notes when I post it to my blog, so you'll be able to go to Way Past OK and be able to find Dieter and figure out and find out all the things that he's working on, and be able to get in contact with him. So again, Dieter, awesome. Thank you. This is TY. I am signing off, and remember, the time is always now. Thank you so much for joining me again. If you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. Just simply search Terence Young, New Thought, Transformational Speaker, or you can search Google, The Time Is Always Now. I love to connect with you, and I want to continue to inspire, encourage, and motivate you to make changes for the better. Until next time, remember the time is always now.